Hi, everyone. This is Adrienne. Thank you for joining me tonight. We're going to be looking at what happens when people have special traits, and I'm going to kind of talk you through the different levels of that and different resources that we might can utilize for ourselves. Hello, Jackie and Julie. Thanks for joining. So, First, let's just begin by qualifying our energy with our prayer. So we're just going to start by breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out as we expand into the wisdom of the conscious heart and the temple of the great central sun angels. Opening up the quantum prayer field, calling forth to each of our tribes of light coming in and around us, the energy of our soul guiding us, calling forth the miracle mantle of the mighty Elohim and Seraphim angels. Sealing our energy tonight in the all-consuming violet transmuting flame, ruby flame of divine peace, and the cosmic Christ flame of divine grace. Opening the living field of unconditional love between us. And joining us tonight in the spectrum of the energy is Lady Nada. So Lady Nada is an ascended master who governs the chakra at the solar plexus, dealing with the flame of creation, the flame of divine peace. She's incredibly loving. So she's not only got the flame of peace, but she also has this deep resonance of divine love. For any of the Ascended Masters, or most of them, you can go to ascendedmasterimages.com and oftentimes find them. Anyway, so she is joining us, and she is more of a Venetian coming from Venus. So she's more of a Venetian type being coming from that particular system of energy, I believe. So again, just calling her in because it's going to help us this evening, and just allowing that energy to start to unfold us in the presence of that energy, that flame of divine peace. So it feels like she's coming in to be able to help us, particularly when we do have special traits. So just to create kind of a foundation, I would highly recommend the book, either audio or hard copy, of Dodging Energy Vampires. The word special trait does come from that book, and that is by Christiane Northrup. A lot of people have kind of heard of her throughout the years because she does do a lot for women's health. She's a medical doctor, but she also does a lot of intuitive and alternative work and healing within herself, her own journey, as well as with others. So anyway, so her energy, she's been on her own journey, and but the point of the book, particularly as you get beyond halfway through it, is really helping people who are empaths. And so if you can think about it, that we all have intuition. Every single human being is kind of hardwired to have an aspect of intuition to them. And depending on how a person is raised or their consciousness coming into this world, they may be in touch with it and they may not. So for a lot of the world, they may be kind of asleep, you could say. So a lot of the world can eat certain foods or watch certain things on TV or be in certain types of relationships or certain addictions or certain chemical cleaners. And they're just kind of shut down to it. So even though they're born with a subtle intuition, depending on their conscious awakeness and where they are in their life path. So again, a lot of people just have kind of shut it down in that energy, right? So then you have souls who come into this world who are empaths. And that's kind of a lot of people. Empathing, I feel, is one of the things that children, it's one of the innate intelligences that children have right from the get-go, is empathy. And pets have it, plants have it, children have it. And again, depending on how we're raised and what's going on, we might shut it down. Or again, the higher consciousness you are, you might keep it open and just sort of deal with the consequences of empathing chaos and people and things around you. Then from being empathic, which is almost even like a child's skill set, a child's trait of, it can even be kind of used as a survival skill set, because when you're empathing other people, from a child's point of view, when you feel safe and when you don't, and how to manage certain things. So the world it's communicating a lot through emotional frequencies beyond words. Like, in other words, a parent, if you're a child, might say, I'm fine, or they might say they're upset about something or whatever. But as a child's empathy, you can actually feel when something's going on. You can feel when the parent's angry. You can feel when they're disturbed or distressed about something. And a lot of times parents don't always talk about it with their children. Also, if you watch your parents' relationship or how they interact even with other siblings, you'll pick up on these emotional tones that are not necessarily being spoken about, but they're the unconscious way that people interact with one another. So again, a majority of how people are in the world as a whole is somewhat kind of unconscious, and that's just kind of where that sits. And so if you have empathy, one of your gifts is you're picking up on what might be unconscious to the other person, or something that they just may not feel safe enough to talk about. If you take it up a notch, you got people who are high empaths. And when I'm saying the word empath, I'm not only meaning empath in terms of picking up emotions and feelings. So emotions are like on the surface. It's what we go through hundreds, maybe even millions of emotions in a day. So emotions can shift very, very quickly. Not that we don't get stuck in different emotions, like depression or anger or frustration, or kind of a Pollyanny type thing. So we can get stuck in different emotions, but with emotions, they move a lot like water. And so as an empath, they're picking mostly up on emotions, something in the auric field that shifts a lot. And again, it's a survival technique of how to live in the world in a lot of ways. Okay, then there's the high empath. And I would say that somebody who has a high empath skill is not only picking up on the emotional resonance of what's going on around them, but they're also picking up on the feelings. And so feelings are really more our truth. They deal more on a soul level. The emotions deal more with the unconscious and the inner child reactions to life. The feelings deal more with the soul and maybe what's going on at a deeper level. Like, in other words, on an emotional level, somebody might say, I'm angry at you, but on a feeling level, they might actually be sad or hurt, or maybe even vulnerable. So you see, people can have these disconnects between emotionally acting one way, but actually having this feeling over here that they're maybe out of touch with. Well, a high empath will start picking up on the deeper feeling. And then what I was going to say a minute ago is that when I'm saying the word empath, I'm also meaning intuitive and psychic. They kind of all go hand in hand, right? Because if you're psychic, you're a lot of times picking up on the thoughts as well, so you're kind of picking up on things mentally. And so when I'm saying empathic, just keep in mind that not only is it picking up on emotions or feelings, but you can also be picking up on thoughts and empathing thoughts as well. So just allowing for all that. So again, the high empath is picking up on a deeper resonance of a feeling, and also not only just a random thought form, which oftentimes it's going to be judgments and criticisms. Judgments is a big one that we pick up in people's thought forms as an empath, but as a high empath, you'll not only pick up on the judgment, you might even pick up on why that person's having it. Oh, maybe they have low self-esteem, maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they had something in their childhood. So you see how the high empath has a whole secondary amount of information and knowledge and wisdom that intuitively comes to them about a person or a situation. Okay, a third level to this that Christiane Northrup kind of distinguishes in her book, Dodgy Energy Vampires, which I do like the way she discerns the differences because it helps us understand it a little bit better, is somebody with special traits. So empathy is like child's play. It's something that children often do, plants, animals, etc. We're all sort of born with it. Some people keep it open, some people don't. A high empath normally do not turn it off, and they are picking up on the superficial information of thoughts and emotions, but then the deeper feelings and what's actually causing the thought form. They oftentimes also, I think what goes along with high empaths is that they have a deeper, a greater developed sense of compassion. Being a bodhisattva of compassion, being trained in other lifetimes to the expansiveness of compassion. So that is another factor of the high empath is greater compassion in terms of their empathy and healing energies. Okay, the special traits, which is again taking it one notch higher, maybe is people who do have the high empathy, but they're not only highly empathing it, they are taking it one notch up to where now they are actively doing intuitive work. They are doing healing work. They are literally communing with the nature spirits or animals. They are being life coaches with people. Maybe they're being doctors. Um, uh, but they're taking their healing gift. And so somebody with a special trait will have higher telepathic gifts and capacities that they use in their life. And not only do they have these special attributes and skill set, but they have a stronger desire to actually use it to be in service with others. So people with high empaths will have a deeper level of compassion to want to be of service with you, but people with special traits have skill sets that have been developed through other lifetimes that are very well harnessed, a level of mastery and enlightenment that it is hard for them not to be of service with it. You see, in whatever profession they choose to do that with, whatever life path they choose. So that's kind of just a foundation, just so that, we're kind of on the same page with what we're talking about here. So before I go any further, if you wanted to use the chat box, does anybody have any questions about empaths, high empaths, special traits, anything anybody wants to share? If you just say hey in the chat box or whatever, I can pull you up and I can bring you online and we can talk about it. Or if you just wanted to share something, you can just put it in the chat box and that's cool too. And if you have any questions, I'm just giving people a minute before we kind of go a little further. And just taking a breath while I'm seeing if anybody wants to reach out or not. Take a breath and just begin breathing into yourself. And I want you to notice, this is really like a sense of being compassionate and connected to yourself, but breathing in. And we want to start clearing the energy field for you. So I want you to breathe down into your belly, into your pelvic floor area. And I want you to breathe into the keyword, be empathic. So again, just breathing into the keyword, be empathic. And just noticing how you feel saying it. Do you feel shame? Do you feel nervous? Does it feel honoring to you? Do you feel like, oh, what a relief. I can just own this for myself now? So again, just breathe in to be empathic. And then we're going to take it up a notch and just keep breathing in, because you're just noticing where you fit on the spectrum and just being comfortable wherever that is. I doubt you would have been interested in this, signing up even for this particular talk tonight, if you weren't at least empathic, to have some resonance. And so now continue to breathe into your belly and breathe into be a high empath, and noticing how you feel, what comes up in your energy field. Is there a charge of energy on that? Again, does it feel like a relief? Does it feel like it's familiar, but you're not 100% sure? We're just opening up the doorway, noticing that all parts of you have a right to be heard. So again, breathing into the belly, be a high empath. B communicates directly to your unconscious, and we're giving you permission in your unconscious to own these things for yourself and all the emotions or feelings that come with them. So be a high empath. Like for me, I notice when I say be a high empath, when I said be an empath, I felt, oh, that feels kind of good. When I went into be a high empath, again, I'm just giving you examples, I started to feel responsible. Like, oh, high empath. Now I'm just feeling so responsible for others. And again, you might have felt something really different, really good about it. I'm just interacting with you. So whatever it is you're feeling, either as an empath or a high empath, and it might have been something very positive, it might have had a little bit of heaviness to it, but just breathe into that. Let's go a little deeper now, right? And just breathe into, like for me, I'm going to breathe into where I have being a high empath collapsed with being over responsible to others. And that's what I'm going to breathe into. And so just breathe into that for a moment, whatever it is for you. And you just it's like riding a roller coaster. You just keep going deeper and deeper into the emotions, the feelings, any memories that come up. There might even be a past life. There might be angels that come in. Keeping in mind that Lady Nada is working with us tonight to help us kind of clear through this energy and also learn how to honor it. The second thing, again, I'm talking this out because I feel like we're working as a group consciousness tonight. I'm like, wow, as a high empath, I start to feel responsible. And then I breathe a little bit deeper beyond that, because that might be part of my own judgment. I start to feel, and again, I'm just checking this out with you to see if you might feel this too, is that I have a tendency as a high empath to judge my own emotional experience. Like if I'm empathing somebody else, I might feel responsible for them or want to help them, and I put a lot of energy into that, right? But then when I want to have my own experience of a life choice or something I want to do or some way I feel, I might have a tendency to judge it instead of just let it be okay. Because again, empaths and high empaths have a tendency at times to be a bit codependent with other people. It's one of the weak links, is overgiving, overcaring, overwhelm, being too much in other people's energy fields, and not being balanced with herself. And that's one of the things we want to talk about tonight as somebody with special traits, high empathy or empathy. How do you keep yourself kind of balanced with that? Because it's like you don't want to shut down the gift, which again, a lot of people do. You don't want to shut it down. You just want to learn how to manage it to where it gets to be that gift, and you get to, kind of be what you're, be your true self. So again, just as you're breathing into your pelvic floor, noticing any other layers that come to the forefront. And again, I'm just sharing that, wow, sometimes I'm having experiences I feel like other people might judge, and then I don't want to let myself have experiences of other people judge it or don't agree with it. And then I shut down a part of my life experience, when in truth, as souls, we have a right to live our life any way we want. And empaths, high empaths, and people with special traits usually, a lot of times, live their life a little bit more in obligation to others. They might even sometimes feel enslaved to others. And so you want to keep in mind one of your resources with this particular set of intuitional gifts is that you want to start using the word creative choice, that you always have a right. You can love people and you can still have creative choice. You can love people and you can have a right to your own feelings, your own opinions, your own experiences, your own desires. Empaths oftentimes just sort of go with the flow, and whoever has this more stronger dominant energy, oftentimes they'll just sort of go with that. And then they lose themselves in it. And then a lot of times what I see with people who have this skill set, and I do the same, is at some point I get kind of burned out and I just want space. Like, instead of just saying no, or I feel this way, or this works for me, or this doesn't, withdrawing and creating space might be the best way we have of dealing with it. But sometimes, like if we were, again, to look at it, a skill set around our issue, the gifts that we have, it would be unconditional love. And so the more I've started practicing, and this is a resource for people who have the special traits, high empathy, is to begin breathing in and noticing that I deserve more and more unconditional love at all times. And then I start to remember whoever I might be empathing at a high level or wanting to use my special traits with at a high level, and I get sort of sucked into the energy, or maybe I lose myself in the energy and have good boundaries, is I practice every day, particularly when I'm very interactive with people. I just say it to myself in my own head. I know that I deserve more and more unconditional love at all times. And I know this person, this client, this family member deserves more and more unconditional love at all times as well. And then sometimes, again, for high empaths, people with special traits, high consciousness, high emotional intelligence, able to tap into not only their own emotional intelligence, but divine intelligence as well, that those people, again, as we get into the special trait category and sometimes high empaths, is that they are also running energy in the collective consciousness. And so they're at their workplace, they're picking it up as a group. They're in their family, they're picking it up as a group. They're watching politics. They're dealing with spiritual groups, meditation groups, going to yoga classes, being teachers in a classroom of people, being doctors, being life coaches. They are, at times, not only just empathing one person, they're empathing whole groups of energy, right? And so again, remembering I deserve more and more unconditional love at all times instantly reminds you that you have a life. You have feelings, you have a life, you have your own independent flame of divine source energy. You are not collapsed with others. And sometimes as empaths, like again, I know I deserve more and more unconditional love at all times, every single morning and throughout the day, because how we're raised isn't necessarily that way. And so reminding myself of that is helping me to kind of reclaim a sense of independence that I don't normally feel because I collapse in, right? That's the tendency with empaths, is to collapse other people into their emotional feeling, body, thought forms, etc. So again, you want to kind of open back up to knowing I deserve more and more unconditional love at all times, which then puts you in the spectrum of living your life unconditionally. So with unconditional love, it's not something I need to give to somebody, and it's nothing I can take away from somebody. Vice versa, nobody can give me unconditional love. It's something within us. And so when you start using that statement, you start igniting a depth of unconditional love within yourself, which feels really good, because the world as a whole tends to be very conditional. We've been raised through generations and centuries with conditional love, which is more about the energy of karma, action, reaction, learning through either being the savior, the victim, or the perpetrator. So it's like that three triangle energy, right? And these are all the aspects of conditional energy. So when you finally open up your consciousness, and it's really a relief to people who are empathic, high empaths, or special traits, is that we get to open up the energy with remembering that we deserve more and more unconditional love. It's like it lets us off the hook. It gives us like a breath of fresh air. It gives us some freedom to breathe, to be ourselves, that we do have a life and we do have an opinion about something and we do have feelings, right? And so, in remembering that you have that and giving yourself permission to be in touch with your own feelings, maybe for the first time ever, then what happens is unconditional love is nothing more than if I unconditionally love myself, really what I'm doing is I'm being honest with myself. So unconditional love and honesty go hand in hand. And if I'm honest with something, the way I share my unconditional love with you, again, I'm not going to give it to you. That's something you have to do within yourself. But if I want to share my unconditional love with you, what I'm sharing is my honest feeling. And then unconditionally, you have a right to say, I hate that, or I hate you, or I love that, or I love you. So you see, you have to you create the space. Again, this is unconditionally love, is that you're creating the space for the other person to have an experience that you're not responsible for. They can feel any way they want about it. You're not responsible, and you honor whatever they feel about it, whether you like it or not, or they like it or not. You see, and because you're respecting somebody in that way, you're giving them the freedom to respond to your honest truth about something. The more you give other people that freedom by not taking responsibility for their feelings and emotional reactions and trying to curtail yourself to it to where they like you, um, you're actually giving yourself freedom. You see, so if you and I are talking and I'm like, oh, my unconditional love, I, like this particular ice cream, this non dairy ice cream. And you're like, oh, well, I actually like savory things. So, that's okay, right? So, for one, I'm sharing my truth with you, something that is my honesty, which is true. And then you have a right to say, oh, okay, I like this flavor or I like savory things. And so now we're two independent beings having an interdependent experience. And if it's not interdependent, with empaths, we tend to collapse with one another and it becomes codependent. So, right, so the goal here is first and foremost, I have to remember with all of my intuition and all the things that I could do for you and all the things that I feel with you, that I'm my own individual presence and person. I'm an individualized flame of God all into myself. I came into this world alone. I will leave this world alone. I can walk this world, but I am an independent presence of divine source energy. And the more I remember that, the more I will remember you are too, right? So, first is I deserve more and more unconditional love, not less. And then when I remember that you deserve more unconditional love, not less, I feel like I can relate to you as interdependent, where we have connection, but it's interdependent. And I'm not as likely to become codependent, because if I don't remember you deserve unconditional love too, I'm going to first and foremost want to fix you. Because as an empath, I already know your pain points. As an empath and a high empath and somebody with special traits, I already know a lot about your unconscious. I know a lot. I can feel your pain body. I have immense compassion. I can pick up on your thought forms. I can pick up on your emotional reactions and the subtleness of what you like and don't like. And if I don't have a good sense of self, for me to feel okay and safe in the world, I've got to fix you. So the minute I want to fix you, and people who have these gifts tend to want to fix others, heal them, fix them, save them, etc. That means we're going to go into codependency, and I'm losing myself in codependency. And unfortunately, I need you to be something for me so that I'll feel okay again, right? So if I know you deserve unconditional love, I'm going to be like, it's okay that they're having these emotions. Not everything in the world is about me, right? empaths tend to think, because they pick up an emotion and they can't distinguish the difference between what's theirs and what's not, they collapse it. So now if you're mad, oh my God, what did I do? Did I do something? Did I hurt your feelings? Did I upset you? Let me do something to fix it, right? That's probably a pretty familiar conversation. So, like I said, to correct that major bottom line pattern that empaths tend to have, the one way I know to interrupt it, and if you get Dodging Energy Vampires, that's a great book to start with because it's going to teach you a lot about being an empath. And the whole book kind of ends on divine love, which is nice. The second book I would recommend as a resource is the book called Real Love by Greg Baer. Both of these are Audible or hard copy. Real Love by Greg Baer, B-A-E-R. And that one teaches a lot more about unconditional love and how we collapse. And so I'm kind of teaching this class tonight, but if you find that these are big issues for you, I listen to both of these books 2 and 3 times because I'm trying to break my own habits, right? Things that you don't even know what you don't know. And sometimes when we take in information that we find that is resonant to us, it's good to upgrade our emotional intelligence and to upgrade, because we didn't really learn a lot of great patterns about relationships or money or sexuality or eating habits from the way that we were raised. As empaths and special trait people, more than likely you have chosen a better lifestyle than the ones you were raised in because you intuitively listen to your body a little better. But still, it's important that if you don't have good money consciousness, find somebody who does and read their book or take a class. Find somebody who is gifted about emotional intelligence or about intuition or about sexuality or about how to be in a partnership. Because some people have better awareness and have trained themselves and done a lot of work, and it's great to be around that. Obviously, trusting your own intuition and higher presence, the one heart breath with your own cosmic Christ presence, that will immediately do it. That does help you to figure your life out. So anyway, doing the thing about I deserve more unconditional love reminds me I am an individualized flame of God. I have a life. I have a reason for being here, and it is not about you. It is about me. And then if I say, I know that you deserve more unconditional love, I realize, oh my God, not everything's about me. You have a life. You have feelings. You have things that I don't know about you. You have things that I would like to discover about you, or that we can grow and discover about each other. So it cleans up a lot of relationship issues, and it uncollapses the codependency into interdependency, right? Now, the next thing with people, if you want to awaken your special traits and you want to learn how to manage your high empathy or empathy, that's really, you can go to people and they can definitely tell you about certain traits that you might have if they're intuitive by nature as well. But a really good way to kind of ignite the special traits, the special gifts that you came in with, like maybe hands-on healing or animal communication or growing plants or prayer work, being a prayer practitioner, or bringing forth higher wisdom and angelic wisdom to others. A really great way to ignite your special traits and to learn how to manage the depth of compassion you have as a high empath, and to how to empath others without going into your own survival. The thing that I would really recommend as a resource there is doing the one heart breath with your own, I call it cosmic Christ presence, but you can also say I am presence, higher presence, divine presence, true presence, whatever word works for you is fine. But it is that higher aspect of your consciousness, right, that we're calling in. So that's what we're directing our energy to. So I want to kind of walk us through that, because it's not only going to help us integrate the work that we're doing in this moment, but it's also going to help us to learn a new way of being that is the most direct way we can learn, which is from our own higher presence, that can instantly ignite your DNA and start turning switches on in your DNA around your special traits, right? That maybe are latent or connected to past lives, or a lot of times what I see with people with special traits also is that their parents don't understand them, or it intimidates their parents or the community that they're in, or maybe it wasn't accepted in your religious beliefs or whatever, and they shut them down. And so you might have really amazing special traits that would have been already pretty active, but unconsciously as a child, you might have shut it down to try to fit into your family unit, or you didn't feel safe in community, the communities that you're being raised in. So sometimes they're latent, meaning they're from past lives, and you just haven't woken them up yet. Maybe there's an astrological timing or a timing to when you could manage them. Sometimes they're perfectly fine. They're totally intact. We just separated from them because we didn't think the people around us were okay with it. And then sometimes the third element is that you're actually evolving. And so you have special traits that you're evolving this lifetime that maybe you've never experienced before. So this one heart breath with your cosmic Christ presence helps with all these dynamics within your DNA, but also just in your conscious awakening. So to do the one heart breath, just relax. You might want to close your eyes. And you want to open the door to, I'm going to say cosmic Christ presence, but use any other word you want, divine presence, higher presence. And you want to send forth infinite love, adoration, and gratitude. That's the threefold flame, right? Infinite love, adoration, and gratitude to the sacred heart of your own divine presence. And by sending it love, it's like, oh, somebody's paying attention to me and it wants to come closer to you. And you're like, I want to come into a one heart breath with my divine presence. And instead of you going out of your body, you're actually calling it down to stand in front of you in human form. So that's a distinction I want you to notice. You're not going up to it, you're bringing it down to you on your level. And you are calling it forth to stand before you into a one heart breath. What you want to do is you want to lean in with your left shoulder, right? So you're leaning in with your left shoulder to go into a tender embrace, to go into a hug with it, right? So you're leaning in with your left shoulder, and your brain doesn't really know the difference between matter and energy, angels or a friend. It just doesn't. I know our brain computes physical energy around us like that's a plant, this is a table, that's a real person. But in truth, everything is energy, and the brain is actually quite sophisticated. So when you call in to your higher presence to come before you and just to go into this loving hug, what allows your brain to kind of compute the energy is feeling it in your heart. How does it feel to be in the tender embrace with your own higher presence? And so you let yourself feel it. Now, there's a few things about this. One is that oftentimes we have dissociated from ourselves for whatever reason. Usually as a young child, we will actually step away from our divine presence. And so whatever doorway you left yourself through, maybe it was fear, maybe it was trauma, maybe it was sorrow, whatever it is, you're going to have to kind of come back through that same doorway. So sometimes when you call forth to come into this one heart breath, I know this went on for me for about, 6 to 8 weeks. I had mixed emotions. I loved the feeling and the connection to my presence, but I also felt like this longing and this sorrow and this loneliness. And it took about 6 to 8 weeks before that feeling healed and integrated. But that's how long it took me to heal how it felt when I left myself for whatever reason in my childhood. Okay, so you might get mixed feelings, but keep breathing through it. Keep doing this every day. You will instantly start to feel better when you do the one heart breath. It will start healing things and you didn't even know needed to be healed. It will heal things that you don't know how to heal. But the key to it is consistency and being consistent with it. As if you eat every day, you take, you breathe every day. This is like that. So you really want to say, I'm not just doing this for the experience of this class in this moment, or 3 weeks, or 21 days, or a month, or a year. You just start to incorporate this as a way of being. It's so simple, really, right? So So you might feel what it felt like when you left yourself, and that's you healing something. Okay. The second thing that you might feel that I noticed for me, and I still feel it. I've been doing this since last October, every single day, multiple times a day. And um, Mary Magdalene kind of brought it forth in the last class that I taught. But it's like when I do this one heart breath, I start to feel safe and protected. Now, for me in my childhood, because it was so chaotic, safe and protected is what I most wanted to feel. So it's literally taken me this many months just to heal feeling safe and protected in the world and the residue that's come along with it. I'm just now getting to the point of more elevated emotions. I'm feeling strong. I'm feeling whole. I'm feeling deserving. I'm feeling maybe at times blissful or joyful or happy. So you see, it's like the more you do this, you're elevating your emotional energy, but it will start to heal parts of you. And that just takes as long as it takes. Don't put a time limit on it because you're committed to do this for the rest of every day of your life anyway. Right. So you got all the time you need to do this. And I'm just giving you a heads up on some of the subtleties that you might feel, because sometimes when people feel it, they might stop at one level or they might feel intimidated by something. And don't just keep breathing through it. Um, the other thing that will happen when you do this one heart breath is that you might feel really good and really connected and it's healing things. You have to imagine that like our unconscious has like black tar pits just randomly. And so here you are doing this one heart breath and you might just start to feel really good and really grounded in yourself and maybe even blissful. Like I went through 3 weeks, maybe almost a month of feeling almost like in a samadhi, a higher enlightened, blissful state. Nothing could get me out of it. And then something started happening with people dying around me, like local people, neighbors, and somebody I was working with a hospice center and somebody I care about, just things like that. That is one of my deepest issues, right? Is that issue. And so it totally brought me down. And I'm still trying to get myself back up to that elevated, blissful state. But it threw me into a tailspin. Okay, so that would have been one of my black tar pits, like this pit, this black pit that we get sucked into. So imagine your unconscious has these like tar pits in them, and as you align with your I am presence, your higher presence, you're doing really good. But one of the things that you're doing by coming into resonance with it is that as you get stronger, it will say, oh, let's bring in this tar pit and let's heal it, because now I'm here with you and now we can heal it, right? And so you might find, oh my God, I feel so horrible, I feel depressed, I'm right back where I was. Don't give up if that happens. Keep turning the wheel, letting your own higher presence heal you from whatever that issue is in your psyche. And sometimes they're even spanning lifetimes worth, okay? And then you'll clear it out. You'll be doing good. You'll kind of be in this good elevated place again. And then eventually you might have another like tar pit. Well, eventually you're going to find that there's just less and less tar pits that you're reacting to, right? So don't give up on it. And it has its own methodology, its own divine intelligence as to when and how it brings these issues forward. And I promise you, it will be way graceful and you will feel way stronger with more resources than ever before to actually get to the other side of whatever these issues are. Okay, so again, I'm breathing in, leaning in with my left shoulder. I'm feeling how it feels to be held in this tender embrace. And then I say to it out loud, usually, I say it 3 times out loud, first thing before I wake up, when I wake up in the morning. I choose you above all else. I choose you, my beloved I am presence, above all else. I choose you, my cosmic Christ presence, above all else. And I can feel it by the 3rd time. It locks in. It's like a heart lock in, where I can feel my determination is there, greater so, where I'm not going to be talked out of it as easily or as much, right? So and then what I subtly feel is that it's choosing me in return. It's a there's like this energy of um like a flow, you know what I mean? Like a synchronistic flow where the energy's coming back to me. So that works really well. Then I just start rhythmically breathing because I want to ground it into my body, into my DNA, into my cells. And so I'm still in this tender embrace. I'm feeling what I feel being held by it. I have said I choose you above all else, and I feel that that reciprocal energy. And then I'm just saying I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. And it will take anywhere between 3 to 10 breaths, usually no more than 10, but 3 to 10 breaths. And I will feel all of a sudden, I just take a deep breath and relax. Or all of a sudden, I feel more vulnerable. Or all of a sudden, I just feel at peace. Or I just feel like I let go of something. So there's like a subtle feeling that comes along with it when you get your breath harmonizes. And because you're in this one heart breath with your presence, you'll feel that your breath and the breath of your presence is breathing as one. I drop a little deeper and I notice my heartbeat. Again, between usually to 5 breaths, I will feel the synchronization, the return circuitry of where my breath and the breath of my higher presence is breathing as one and my heartbeat is beating as one. And then I have this humbling experience. Oh my gosh, my presence is breathing me. It's beating my heart. And that's like a really great remembrance because as empaths, high empaths, and people with special traits, we can get so caught up in other people and almost feeling like responsible for the world around us that we forget that there's this higher presence taking care of us because we're doing such an amazing job taking care of everybody around us, pets, plants, people, the world, that it's easy to almost like go into almost like a God complex where we feel overly responsible to all of life that is not our responsibility. And when you remember that there's this higher thing breathing you and beating your heart, it's like you can kind of surrender. You can go into this more vulnerable state to remember, oh man, not only do I have this thing taking care of me, but also everybody else does too. I'm not that responsible. I'm not alone in the world and all of that, right? So it's very healing for a lot of reasons. So then you finalize the statement with saying, please come forth on my behalf to take full command, complete command of my life in all ways and at all times. Thank you. I'm in such gratitude, finally feeling that I can get out of my own way and allow this higher presence that I can trust to take command of my life. Because children who are born as high empaths and special traits oftentimes don't trust their parents because they're coming in more evolved than maybe their parents' consciousness is at that moment in time. And so they can feel the difference that they don't really have somebody who's vibrating at this level who can help them. They're actually the parent raising their own parents. So it's like young adults. It's like children who grow up too fast and are actually trying to raise their parents, right? So, and I imagine that sounds familiar to a lot of you. So you really didn't have somebody there that maybe you felt that you could fully trust. And it's not that your parents don't love you and didn't take care of you in whatever way they could, but consciousness wise, they weren't in their own higher consciousness. They were perhaps in a lower conscious as their own fear and survival, and you're still at a high consciousness and you didn't let go of it. You didn't just, withdraw it. So because of that, um, in that energy, it is that's where you are finally feeling that this presence, you finally have something that you can trust, and that goes a long way. So now when you're out in the world, or if you have anxieties or you have um, stresses or worries, you can do this breathing pattern and remember that there's a higher presence moving through you, and you turn it over. Take command of this financial situation, this trip I'm going to take, this relationship issue, this health issue, this concern I have. Teach me about my special traits. Help me to align with a better life path or a better decision in some way. You see, so you finally have something that you can trust. So Megan is saying to please repeat, please come forth. Yeah, please come forth and take command of my life in all ways and at all times, um, throughout my day. So please come forth and take full command, complete command of my life at all times, every single breath I take, in all ways, with, with all people, for my highest and best good, throughout my day. So I'm just sort of saying a few different ways you can say it. And the minute you make that call, your presence is like, absolutely, of course, that's what I'm here for. But until we make the call, it's sort of like this part of us resonating at a very high level. And the minute you make the call, it's like you're inviting it in. And it's no different than you could be oblivious to angels, or you could start paying attention to angelic signs in your life. You can be oblivious to your feelings and emotions, or you can start paying attention to feelings and emotions in your life. You can be oblivious to your higher presence, or you can pay attention to it and invite it in an interdependent way to start managing your life with you. And like I said, it just takes a ton of pressure off of us feeling alone in the world, having trust issues, going into codependency. In other words, I'll take care of you out of my desperation in hopes that then I can be myself, in hopes that then you'll take care of me, in hopes that then you'll accept me or give me permission to be myself. You see, it just cuts everything short on the codependent talk, because once you know you have this, I don't need you to be something for me anymore. I can just be my true self. I can be unconditionally loving and honest with myself and with you now, which is going to have a much more authentic relationship as we go through life. So that is where that happens. Now, the other reason I wanted to do this particular breathing technique tonight with you is not only to bring relief to some of the things you might be experiencing, but also because if there was ever anything in the universe that could teach you about your special traits, ignite it in your DNA, cause a remembrance, teach you how to be a master of it, is your own higher presence. And granted, we can read a book or have a teacher or have experiences in this life. All those things can be helpful, but there is nothing that's like your own higher presence teaching you about your uniqueness the way your gift is. Because even books on empaths are going to be somewhat generalized compared to what your unique empath is. Like, in other words, are you clairaudient? Are you clairvoyant? Are you clairsentient? What past life experiences you've had? What dimensions have you lived in? What judgments do you have? What is some of the unconscious issues in your inner child? What parallel universes are you interacting in right now? You see, so for somebody to tune in, there is not one book, one person that can tune into the full scope of who you are, right? But your higher presence automatically has the entire scope of information, um, in a way that can download to you what you need in the way that you can be downloaded as well. So that's another reason why that particular breath is so important and powerful. Okay, coming back around to Lady Nada for a minute. So coming into Lady Nada, one of the ways, just feeling her for a moment and just feeling her overlighting us with her presence, blessing us, overlighting us, blessing us. And just breathing in and breathing out. Feeling her bringing in this calm peace. And one of the qualities that she's bringing forth in the quality essence of divine peace is acceptance. So one of the things that she's wanting to give us a gift of tonight is whoever you are, wherever you are on the spectrum of your intuition, to have acceptance for it. So one of the things that would bring you peace is actually just accepting who you are, the truth about yourself. And you don't even necessarily have to know all the truth about yourself. I'm willing to accept the truth about myself, because one of the reasons she's bringing this up is because as a child, you more than likely around people who weren't accepting their gifts and then did not have acceptance for your gifts. And so right now, one of the healing agents, the conversation we're having tonight that would help you tremendously is, I am choosing, I'm allowing myself to accept myself. I'm giving myself permission. That's another really good one. I'm giving myself permission to accept myself exactly as I am. with all of my gifts intact. And that's just a nice affirmation, even. You know what I mean? So, say you're trying to problem solve something or you have a relationship issue. I wonder what it would be like if you say something like, I'm giving myself permission to know the truth about this. I'm giving myself permission to have acceptance about uh, my higher knowing about this situation. Again, as empaths, we tend to want to resonate to what other people feel. And sometimes what they feel or what they want from us isn't what we want or feel. And so to go along with this, it's like it's okay to say I love you, but no, I don't want to do that. So you see how you can have both. Again, that's interdependent. I love you, but I want something different than you. And that's okay. Or I love you and I want the same thing. That's our way too. You just sort of feeling it all the way through. Normally the problem is I love you and I want something different for empaths. That's the thing that's a little bit harder for them. Saying I love you and I want everything you want just the way you want it, empaths have that one down. So it's actually I love you and I want something different. I love you and I have a different feeling. I love you and I have my own experience of this. Okay, so we're coming full circle, asking Lady Nada, sealing this session tonight in the all-consuming ruby flame of divine peace, and working with you while you sleep tonight and over the next, week or so. Again, learning to have acceptance that I'm an empath, I'm a high empath, I have special traits. Giving yourself permission and accepting yourself as you are is going to make a world of difference in how you awaken and learn how to have mastery with these particular gifts that you were born with, that are not only helpful and designed for your greatest benefit in the fulfillment of your soul blueprint, but also help others as well in a way that you're not losing yourself to them. So, going to come to a close on that note. I do have Awakening Your Soul Blueprint 6-week course coming up February 4th. If you're interested in that, we'll be sending some information out on it, but it will sort of take what we're doing tonight and help you start evolving, knowing what your special traits are, actually delineating and figuring it out week by week, some of the special traits, so that you can figure that out and have a little more information to go into that one heart breath and expand into. So thank you so much for participating tonight and joining me, and I hope you have a really good evening. Okay.